Chapter 1. Inciting Smoke, D.C. D.C. mornings hit different when you a single father. Alarm buzzing before sunrise, body still sore from the warehouse shift last night. I dragged myself up, rubbed my eyes, checked on my daughter. Her braids all crooked from tossing in her sleep. The little Snoopy blanket halfway on the floor. I tucked it back over her, whispered, "Daddy got you," before heading to the kitchen. Bills stacked on the counter, fridge half empty, but we made it work. The block outside was already alive, sirens in the distance, bus brakes squealing, neighbors arguing about rent money. I packed her lunch, just a jelly sandwich, apple slices, and a juice box, wishing I could give her more, but knowing love stretched meals further than money. She stumbled out the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, you coming to school today?" she asked, voice soft. I paused, heart heavy. "Field trip to the museum." "I can't, baby. I gotta work." Her face dropped, but she nodded, brave like kids learn too early on the block. I bent down, kissed her forehead. "One day soon, I'll be there." Even if I didn't believe it, I had to make her believe. Dropping her at school always felt like walking a tightrope. Other parents whispering, couples holding hands. Me standing alone in my steel-toe boots, hoodie pulled up. Teachers smiled polite, but I felt the judgment in their eyes. Like being a single black father made me suspect before I opened my mouth. She hugged me tight at the door. "Love you, Daddy," she said. I held on longer than usual, because out here, love felt like armor. Back at the warehouse, the foreman barked orders, boxes stacked taller than men. My back aching, but my mind heavier than the load. I kept checking my phone, making sure the school didn't call. Didn't trust the system. Didn't trust how fast they moved on single fathers like me. Break time came. I sat on the loading dock, scrolling news on my cracked screen. Every headline about custody battles, fathers losing. It felt like foreshadowing, like the city itself was warning me my turn was coming.
That evening, the block was buzzing. Dice clattering in the alley, neighbors blasting go-go from porches. I walked with my daughter, holding her small hand tight. She told me about the trip I missed, her eyes lighting up when she described the dinosaur bones. My chest hurt, proud and guilty at the same time. We passed a group of mothers on the stoop, their voices low but pointed. "That Marcus always trying, but a child need her mama," one said. I kept walking, shoulders stiff, pretending my daughter didn't hear, even though I knew she did. Later that night, after homework and dinner, she was asleep again. I sat at the table, staring at overdue bills. Then came the knock, sharp, official, the kind that don't belong at night. I opened the door to find a CPS worker, clipboard in hand, badge shining under the hallway light. "Mr. Hill, we received a report," she started, voice professional but cold. My stomach dropped, already knowing the script. This was how the smoke started, not with fire, but with paperwork. She stepped inside, eyes scanning my apartment like a detective, fridge open, notes scribbled on her pad. I stood frozen, fists clenched, forcing myself calm, because one wrong move and they'd twisted into angry black father. When she left, promising to follow up, the silence hit heavier than any noise. I sat on the couch, staring at the closed door, whispering, "Lord, don't let them take her." The system had noticed me. And once it notices, it never lets go easy. Chapter 2. Pressure Rises, D.C. The knock from last night wasn't just noise. It was an echo I couldn't shake. At work, I kept hearing it over the machines. Clipboard tapping on the doorframe, her voice flat. "We received a report." By the time I picked up my daughter from school, word had already spread. Eyes followed me from the playground fence to the parking lot. Neighbors whispered like they knew something I didn't, and in D.C., her whisper travels faster than Wi-Fi. That evening, Miss Janine from upstairs caught me on the steps, her voice sugar but sharp. "Marcus, everything all right with the little one?" I forced a smile. "She good, thanks." But I saw her glance at the CPS business card sticking out my pocket. My daughter tugged my sleeve. "Daddy, can we go inside?" I nodded, quick, shutting the door behind us like closing a vault. Pressure wasn't just from the system. It was from every set of eyes on the block. The fridge hummed loud, emptier than I liked. I counted bills on the counter, numbers not adding up. When my daughter asked for a second juice box, I shook my head. "Save it for lunch tomorrow," I said soft. Her little face fell, but she didn't argue. That silence cut deeper than crying. It was like she already understood the world was measuring us, waiting for me to slip. Later that night, I pulled out the CPS paperwork, words blurring under the yellow bulb, allegations vague, concerns of neglect, unstable housing, insufficient support. They made love sound like failure. I scribbled notes in the margin, dates of field trips, receipts for groceries, proof, stacked thin but proof all the same. Every sentence on that page felt like a hand pushing me further from my daughter, and I swore under my breath, not without a fight. By Friday, a CPS worker came back, this time unannounced. She scanned the living room, eyes pausing on the cracked paint and sagging couch. "Do you have family support?" she asked. I answered sharp, "My family is me and her." She wrote some quick on her pad, lips tight. My daughter peeked from the hallway, fear plain on her face. I wanted to grab the pen from her hand, snap it, but instead I swallowed the rage and stood silent. That night, Dre stopped by, dropping off tools from the site. He studied me, voice low. "They circling you, Slim. You gotta be smart." I sighed heavy. "Smart don't pay rent. Smart don't win in court." He leaned back, sipping from his thermos. "Maybe not, but stupid gets you locked. Keep your cool." I nodded, but inside I was boiling. The system wanted me calm while it twisted my life. That balance felt impossible, like holding water in bare hands. When I tucked my daughter in, she asked, "Daddy, they gonna take me?" Her voice cracked like glass. I sat on the edge of her bed, heart breaking. "No, baby, I'm not letting that happen." But the words tasted like hope mixed with fear. She held my hand until she fell asleep. I stared at the ceiling, whispering to myself. Pressure had risen, and I knew this was just the beginning. Chapter 3. The Setup, D.C. Monday morning came with another letter in the mail, white envelope stamped with the seal of family court. I ripped it open with shaking hands, reading words I already feared. Hearing scheduled, custody in question. It felt less like paper and more like a trap, like the system had been waiting for the right moment to strike. My daughter ate cereal at the table, swinging her legs, innocent, while I fought the weight of words meant to tear us apart. At work, I couldn't focus. Every box I lifted felt heavier because in my head, I was already in that courtroom. Foreman barked, "You slipping, Marcus?" But I just nodded, knowing the real weight wasn't on my back, but on my name. That night, Dre stopped by and saw the paper on the counter. He read it slowed and shook his head. "They setting you up, Slim. The game always stacked against a single black father." I knew he was right, but hearing it didn't make it easier.
2 days later, her mama's sister showed up, auntie voice loud, face painted with judgment. "She better off with family that could raise her proper," she snapped, standing bold on my doorstep like she owned the place. I held the door frame tight, fighting my temper. "I've been raising her proper since the day she was born," I said steady. She rolled her eyes, muttering, "Judge gonna see who's stable and who ain't." Her words stabbed deeper than any knife. The setup wasn't just legal, it was emotional. My daughter caught in whispers she didn't deserve. At school, a teacher pulled me aside, voice soft but heavy. "We've had concerns reported." I clenched my fist behind my back, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "She's cared for, always."
Walking out, I felt like the walls themselves were leaning, each glance another brick stacking the case against me.
That night, my daughter crawled into bed beside me, her tiny hand resting on my chest. "Daddy, why they keep asking about us?" she whispered. I kissed her forehead, holding back tears. "'Cause people don't always understand love," I said. She fell asleep quick, but I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about lawyers I couldn't afford, and a courtroom waiting to judge me before I spoke. Dre pulled me aside the next day. "Better line up your defense now, Slim. Don't wait on them." I nodded, but my pockets were empty. Legal aid meant long waits and tired lawyers. Private lawyers meant rent money gone, food gone. The setup was designed like that. Squeeze a man till he breaks. I walked home that night with shoulders bent, feeling the city pressed down like a weight I couldn't drop. When the notice came for mediation, I knew it was the pregame before the real fight. Sitting at the kitchen table, pen tapping against my knee, I whispered to myself, they want me to fold, but I can't. The block outside hummed with voices and dice, but inside my apartment, it was just me, a father rehearsing arguments like prayers, knowing the system was already writing my ending if I didn't fight back.
Chapter 4. Impact, D.C. Courtroom air felt colder than outside, like the AC was set to freeze out nerves. I walked in with my daughter holding my hand tight, her braids neat, backpack clutched like a shield. The judge looked down through glasses, papers stacked high, already deciding before I spoke. On the other side, her mama sat with her sister, whispering, their lawyer flipping files like I was a case, not a man. When they read the allegations, my chest tightened. Unstable housing, lack of support, neglect. Each word cut like a blade, twisting love into failure. I gripped the table, forcing my face calm. My lawyer shuffled papers, voice flat. "We dispute these claims. Father provides consistent care," he said. But I saw the smirk on her aunt's face, like the setup was unfolding exactly as planned.
My daughter squeezed my hand, eyes wide. I leaned down, whispered, "Daddy here, don't worry." But the judge cleared his throat. "Child will be placed in temporary custody until further review." The words echoed louder than gunshots. Temporary felt like forever in that moment. My daughter cried, reaching for me as the CPS worker stepped forward, a small hand slipping from mine like sand through fingers. I stood to object, voice breaking. "Your Honor, I've been raising her alone. She's safe with me." The judge didn't flinch, just scribbled notes like my pain was routine. The CPS worker guided my daughter toward the exit, her tears soaking into her sleeve. I took a step forward, but Dre's hand gripped my shoulder from behind, holding me back before I did something that would cost me everything. Walking out that courtroom felt like walking out of a funeral, her cries still echoing in my ears. The hallway spun, voices blurred. I leaned against the wall, chest hollow. Tasha rushed up, eyes wide. "Marcus, what happened?" I shook my head, couldn't form words. She hugged me tight, whispering, "Don't fold, Slim. She needs you fighting." But all I felt was failure stamped on my skin. That night, the apartment was too quiet. Toys untouched, bed empty. I sat on the couch, staring at her drawings on the fridge, stick figures holding hands under a crooked sun. Tears slid down without permission. I whispered a name into the silence. Every corner of that apartment felt heavier, like the walls themselves missed her. Phone buzzed with a message from Dre. "Don't let today be the end. It's just a round." I read it twice, but it didn't ease the ache. My daughter's cry still replayed in my head. I sat up, grabbed the court papers, slammed them on the table, and swore, "System ain't writing my ending." Impact had knocked me down hard, but I promised myself I wouldn't stand on the floor. Chapter 5. Fallout, D.C. The next morning, the apartment echoed. No cartoons playing, no tiny footsteps on the floor. I sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the empty pillow.
her favorite stuffed bear still propped up waiting. I picked it up, pressed it to my chest, and whispered, "Daddy fighting for you." But the silence after made me feel like I was lying, because she wasn't there to hear it. Word spread fast on the block. "Marcus lost his baby," they whispered. I kept my hoodie up, walking past dice games and corner stores. Every laugh felt like it was aimed at me. Even the mothers who once smiled now shook their heads, like I already failed without trial. The fallout wasn't just in court, it was stitched into every glance and every rumor.
At work, I moved like a ghost, lifting boxes but feeling nothing. Foreman yelled, "Focus up," but his voice was muffled. All I could hear was her crying in that courtroom. During lunch, Dre sat beside me, thermos in hand. "Fallout always worse before it clears," he said. I nodded but couldn't speak, because I was scared it never would clear. Nights hit hardest. I kept staring at the door like she might walk in. Her drawings on the fridge looked back at me, stick figures smiling while I sat broken. I poured a drink, then pushed it away, knowing drowning wouldn't bring her back. Instead, I opened a notebook, wrote her name in big letters, promising myself each page would be proof I didn't quit.
Tasha came by with groceries, her eyes soft but steady. "You can't starve yourself while fighting for her," she said. She cooked while I sat silent. When she set a plate in front of me, the smell of fried chicken hit like home. I ate slow, tears sliding without asking. She didn't judge, just placed her hand on mine and whispered, "Fallout don't last forever." Friday night, I walked past the rec court, saw kids hooping, the laughter sharp in the night air. One boy shouted, "Where your daughter at?" Voice innocent but cutting. I froze, heart heavy. "A visiting family," I muttered, walking faster. But the truth burned too deep. The system had taken her, and the block already judged me guilty before I had a chance to defend myself. Back home, I stared at the CPS letter again, hands shaking, chest tight. I whispered, "This ain't the ending." Even though fallout had me on my knees, I knew the fight wasn't done. I slid the papers under my pillow, like keeping them close would keep her close, and I swore to myself I'd turn fallout into fuel. Chapter 6. Confrontation, D.C. The fallout couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, I had to face the system head on. A week later, I was called to a follow-up hearing, but before stepping inside, I caught sight of the CPS worker in the hallway. Clipboard tucked tight, eyes cold. I walked up slow, chest heavy, but voice sharp. "You don't see nothing good in me, do you?" I asked. She blinked, then scribbled something, proving my point. Inside, her lawyer spoke like I was invisible, painting pictures of neglect and instability. I clenched my fists under the table. Dre whispered from the back, "Keep calm, Slim. Don't let 'em bait you." When they twisted missed field trips into lack of involvement, my jaw locked. Finally, I couldn't sit quiet. I stood, voice steady. Everything I do is for her. Every meal, every homework page, every late-night shift. The judge raised his eyebrow, but I kept talking, words spilling before I lost a chance. "You trying to label me a failure when I've been the only constant in her life?" I gestured at the other side. "They visit when they feel like it. I've been there every day." Gasps rippled through the room. Even her aunt shifted uneasy in a chair. For once the truth wasn't whispered. It was out loud, sharp as glass. After recess, I found the CPS worker in the hallway again. She looked me dead in the eye. "Fathers like you rarely win." I leaned in, voice low but fierce. "Then mark this down. I ain't folding." She hesitated, maybe surprised, maybe annoyed, but I saw her pen pause. For the first time, it felt like I rattled her, like she realized I wasn't just another statistic.
That night, I replayed it all on the couch. Tasha sat beside me, her hand steady on my knee. "You finally showed him your fire," she said, but my chest still felt heavy. "Fire don't win cases," I muttered. She leaned closer. "No, but it scares the ones betting on you breaking." Her words stuck, like a light cutting through the smoke. Days later, I was called for mediation, a small office instead of a courtroom. The mediator sat calm, paper stacked. "Can you both agree to shared custody?" Her mama's lawyer smirked. "Not until he proves stability." I clenched my jaw, then leaned forward. "I prove it every day, sunrise to sunset," I said. The room went quiet, because even they couldn't twist that truth. Walking out, Dre clapped my shoulder. "Confrontation ain't just yelling, it's standing tall in the storm." I nodded, finally breathing easier. The block still whispered. The system still circled. But I had faced him without folding, and that was his own kind of victory. I whispered to myself as I walked home. Round one went to them, but I'm still swinging.
Chapter 7. Street, Court, Family Verdict, D.C. By the time the next hearing came, the block already had its own verdict. Mothers on the stoop whispered, "He fighting, but he losing." Dice players shook their heads when I walked past. Even the barber asked, "You straight, Slim?" like my life was entertainment. D.C. don't wait on judges. It hands down sentences and side eyes and gossip. I kept my hoodie up, breathing through the weight, telling myself only one verdict mattered. Inside the courtroom, my lawyer shuffled papers, nerves written all over his face. Across from me, her mama's lawyer looked relaxed, like the case was already won. The judge leaned forward, gavel in hand. "Custody hearing resumed, evidence reviewed," he said. Every word felt like a hammer above my head, ready to drop whether I deserved it or not. They paraded reports across the table, phrases like financial instability and limited family support. My stomach turned as if love could be measured by receipts. When my turn came, I stood, voice shaking but clear. "I provide, I show up, I tuck her in every night," I said. The gallery murmured, some nodding, some scoffing, but for once I wasn't speaking to them. I was speaking straight to my daughter, wherever she was sitting. After testimony, the judge called for a recess. I stepped into the hallway. That's when Miss Charlene, Tasha's mama, walked up, eyes fierce but kind. "Baby, don't beg for approval, show 'em proof." She pressed a small folder into my hand. Inside were letters from neighbors, teachers, even Dre, all testifying I was the one steadying her life. Hope hit me harder than any verdict could. When court resumed, my lawyer handed the folder to the judge. The courtroom shifted, whispers bouncing. The judge scanned the pages slow, then leaned back, expression unreadable. "Custody will remain under review. Temporary placement continues," he said. Not victory, not defeat, just a delay. But delays can mean survival if you know how to wait. Walking out, Drake clapped my shoulder. "Court ain't final, Slim. Family verdict still louder." That night Charlene cooked. Tasha sat with me. Her little cousins running through the living room like joy was cheap. Charlene set a plate in front of me. "Eat, you still got fight left," she said. I nodded, chewing slow, tasting more than food. It was family reminding me the verdict wasn't sealed, not as long as I kept breathing. Laying in bed later, I whispered to myself, "Street says I lost. Court says wait. Family says keep standing." I let those words circle until they sank deep. My daughter's laughter echoed in memory, a sound more powerful than any gavel. Tomorrow would bring more battles, but tonight I claimed a small win because I hadn't folded under verdicts heavy enough to crush me.
Chapter 8. Rise or Reckoning, D.C. After the verdict delay, I knew I had two choices, either let the system bury me or rise through it. I woke up early, poured coffee into a chip mug, and spread papers across the table. Pay stubs, school notes, grocery receipts, even drawings my daughter made. I gathered them like weapons. Each page proof that I wasn't reckless. I was a father fighting for his child. That afternoon, I met a new lawyer, young brother, sharp suit, eyes steady. He flipped through my folder, nodding. This is what they can't twist. I leaned forward, voice low. They already twisting everything. He smiled, calm. Then we straightened it. For the first time, I felt like someone wasn't just defending me. They believed me. And belief is fuel when you fighting giants. Still, the reckoning side never left. Whispers on the block grew louder. Some said I was losing. Others said I'd snap and do something stupid. Walking past felt like walking through crosshairs. Mo from the corner shouted, "Yo, Slim, system eating you alive." I kept walking, voice calm. "Nah, I'm eating it back." He laughed, shaking his head. But deep down, I meant every word. At work, Dre noticed my grind shift. I stacked faster, hammered straighter. He said, "Rise feels different, watching." I nodded, sweat dripping. Can't fold no more. That paycheck came heavier than the last. Not just dollars, but proof of direction. I framed the stub on my fridge beside her drawings, like both were evidence of a future I was building. Still, reckoning whispered at night, when the apartment was too quiet. I replayed her cry in the courtroom, that sound cutting deeper than any judgment. I clenched the brass key Charlene had given me, used it to unlock the pantry, stacked cans until order returned, each thunk echoing like a small victory over chaos. The lawyer called me one evening. "Marcus, I think we got leverage now." I sat straight, notebook ready. He explained how the letters, the stubs, the receipts all painted stability. Judges can't ignore patterns, and you show him one, he said. I exhaled for the first time in weeks. Hope felt foreign but real, like light peeking through boarded windows. That night I wrote in my notebook, "Rise means building, reckoning means folding." I stared at those words until they burned into me. No more doubts, no more whispers. When I closed my eyes, I pictured her smile, the gap in her teeth, the way her laugh filled the room. I whispered to myself, "We rising, baby girl." And for once, I believed it.
Chapter 9, Memory and Meaning, DC. Some nights I sat on the edge of her empty bed, the Snoopy blanket folded neat, pillow untouched. I held a photo of us at the playground, her smile wide, my arm wrapped around her. That memory replayed like a film reel, her laugh echoing over the swings. I whispered, "This what I'm fighting for," because meaning had to live where memory still breathed. On weekends, I kept myself busy, helping Dre on side jobs, fixing leaky sinks and patching drywall. But every nail I hammered, every wall I painted, I pictured her watching, cheering. That's my daddy. The memory of her pride kept me from slipping, even when the block whispered I was done. Her voice was louder, at least in my head where it mattered most.
One night, Tasha asked, "What you miss most?" I didn't hesitate. Her questions. Every night, she'd ask about stars or dinosaurs or why buses kneel for old folks. Those questions made me feel alive. Now the silence felt heavy, like the world forgot to wonder. Tasha squeezed my hand. She'll be back asking soon. Her words wrapped me in hope. Thin, but enough to carry me another day. The pantry became my refuge, stacking cans into neat rows. Brother Ellis peeked in, smiled. "You pray when you stack." I chuckled. "Sometimes I just breathe." He nodded. "That's prayer too." I carried that thought home. Realized meaning wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was quiet enough to keep you steady. One evening, I opened my daughter's notebook, crayon drawings of us at the zoo. She'd written under it, "Me and Daddy forever," letters crooked but strong. Tears blurred the page, but I smiled. That was memory turning into armor. Proof this fight wasn't just legal, it was spiritual, and her love was my shield. The lawyer called again, voice calm, Marcus case moving, evidence strong. I exhaled slow, gripping the photo frame. "Think of her smile in that courtroom," he said. I nodded, though he couldn't see me. That memory was my closing argument, more powerful than any file, because meaning don't come from papers. It comes from love you can't erase. That night I lay back, eyes on the ceiling fan spinning. I whispered, "Memory keeps me alive, meaning keeps me moving." The city outside buzzed, but inside was calm. For the first time in weeks, I slept without nightmares, dreamed of her laughter, her hand in mine. And when I woke, I knew the fight wasn't over, but memory had given me strength, and meaning told me I was still her father.
Chapter 10, The Outro, D.C. The day of the final hearing, the sky over D.C. was gray, but my chest carried light I hadn't felt in months. I walked into that courthouse with Dre on one side, Tasha on the other, papers stacked neat in my folder. When the judge entered, gavel in hand, I whispered to myself, straight, square, level. Because this wasn't just a fight for custody, this was a fight for my name, my dignity, my daughter. The courtroom felt different this time, like the air itself was waiting for truth. My lawyer spoke strong, presenting letters, stubs, and testimony. Every page proof I'd been steady. The other side tried to twist it, but their words fell weaker now. Even the judge's eyes softened when he looked at me, like he finally saw a father instead of a case number. When the judge said, "Joint custody awarded," my knees almost gave out. Tears burned, but I held steady. My daughter rushed across the room, hugging me tight, her little arms squeezing like chains breaking. I whispered in her ear, "Told you Daddy wasn't letting go." She smiled through tears, gap in her teeth shining. That moment was victory. Not perfect, but ours. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, reporters shouting questions. But I ignored the noise, lifting my daughter into the sunlight. D.C. row houses stood tall behind us, like the city itself witnessed my survival. I didn't smile wide, just enough, because triumph felt heavy, not easy. That night back home, she sat on my lap, coloring in her notebook. She wrote 2 stick figures holding hands, then drew a gold crown on my head. "Daddy the King," she said, giggling. I laughed with her, chest lighter. Fallout had scarred me, but meaning had saved me. And now memory had turned into hope. Later that night, Dre and Tasha sat at the table. Charlene dropped off food. Family filled the room with warmth. I raised my glass of water, whispering, "To survival." They clinked glasses, nodding proud. The block might still whisper. The system might still watch. But tonight was mine. Proof a single father could stand against the odds. Lord, thank you for giving me strength when I was empty. Thank you for protecting my daughter when I couldn't. Guide my steps straight. Keep my hands building, not breaking. Let my name carry dignity, not whispers. Help me rise above every verdict meant to bury me. And give me peace enough to rest knowing she's safe. Amen. Psalm 23.